Hello and welcome back to the 9th event and the 10th event 2019 Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. Of course, 4 races this weekend, which makes this race 34 of the season so far. 2 more to go later on today at looks to be, let me just flip over the schedule page there, 11:45 and 3 o'clock. So a lot of action this Sunday afternoon here at the Sepang 1000 kilometer race from the 22nd to 24th of November 2019. As you can see, everybody taking their positions on the grid. So let's have a quick run through the starting order. On pole position, by virtue of the reverse of the results from the last session, Sneha Sharma, Omar Aswat in second, and Amir Harris taking up the 3rd spot. Frederico Peters and Luke Thompson 4th and 5th, while Maurice Mushaffer, Elias Panin and Luke Allen round out the grid. It's going to be a fantastic race, ladies and gentlemen, because these 3 top contenders have to fight their way from the back up to the front once again here at the Sepang International Circuit. Of course, the 5.543 long track, always packed with action. You can see Luke Allen there just warming his tyres slightly as he comes in to slot behind Elias Panin. The safety car at the back of the grid, the green flag marshal. Once he touches the left-hand side of the track, the red lights will come on. As they extinguish, we will be underway once again here at the Sepang International Circuit. You can hear everyone revving loud. And here we go. Looks like they get away strong. Maybe a little bit of a problem for Fred Peters in the orange number 57 car, but he gets away as well. Down the main straight goes Sneha Sharma, while Luke Thompson, the red number 27, seems to duck in behind her, and just behind them, the blue number 19 of Amir Harris. That's, I should say, that's the red number 27 of Omar Aswad as we go 3 wide, and Maurice Mushaffer goes all the way around the outside of Luke Thompson and tries to dive up the inside. Now there may be a collision here because they're packed in quite tightly, but it looks like Luke Allen and Elias Panin came out on top, and they're up into the top 5 at least now, and down maybe into the top 3 as we can see them coming across the 3rd corner of the track. Up the hill into turn 4 now. And you can see Sneha Sharma still leading the blue number 19 of Amir Harris, but Elias Panin all over the back of that blue car. The red number 58 on screen at the moment, just ahead of the blue number 3, as Luke Allen seems to get a very good exit coming out of turn 4. May try to make a move around the outside at turn 5. Not quite close enough to do it is the sizzling Irishman as we come through down into 5 and 6 now. Here we go, cresting into turn 6. You can see the gap between Luke Allen and Elias Panin very close indeed. Elias in the red number 58 car, just ahead of Allen as they come down into turn 7. And across into turn 8 as Sneha leads the possession down the hill, the straight now into turn 9. Hard braking point at about 50 meters here. Amir Harris on the outside, Sneha Sharma, Elias Panin looking up the inside. Can't quite make anything happen here though, but he's going to get a better exit perhaps and go around the outside of turn 10. It looks like he's set to do it on Amir Harris, but no, he slots back in. The possession still still being held in order as Elias Panin tries to find a way up to the front of the grid. I'm sure the Finn desperate to do so because in the last race Luke Allen came out on top, and looks like Luke managed to make a move up the inside of turn 11 on Amir Harris and takes Elias Panin as well. Fantastic drive there from the sizzling Irishman, who is now in behind Sneha Sharma in the purple number 9 car. Elias Panin, of course, holding on to 3rd position. Amir Harris trying to maintain the gap between himself and the red car and hopefully try and take advantage of this battle going on between Sneha and Luke Allen. Luke are getting a better exit coming out of turn 15, turn 14 though, and he's going to get alongside on the straight as he has done already. And Elias Panin, what's he going to do? Maybe up the inside at turn 15. Now we're going to see 3 wide, maybe even 4 wide. Amir Harris perhaps trying to make a move as well. But it looks like Luke Allen, unfortunately there for Sneha Sharma, who seems to outbrake herself. And Luke Allen goes up into 1st position, and Amir Harris follows Elias Panin through into 2nd and 3rd as they cross the start-finish line for the first time here in race 34 of the season. Luke Allen on top ahead of Elias Panin and Amir Harris. Just behind them, Sneha Sharma and then Maurice Mushaffer. Maurice Mushaffer got to make a move here on Sneha coming down into turn 1. Can he make it happen? Maybe not, just a little bit too far back. The pink car on the right hand side of your screen, the bottom with the number 13. Fantastic drive for him in the last session, but not quite enough to get up into the first spot. And really, if he wants to compete, he has to do that in this race. So Maurice got a lot of work cut out for him. Let's have a look at the lap times as they come around in the sectors. Okay, we haven't crossed the 1st sector yet, never mind that. Let's have a look back to the main screen. So you can see the blue number 3 car of Luke Allen still leading the pack. Elias Panin was overtaken here at corner 4 in the previous race by the man in the lead once again. This race, Luke Allen, I'm sure it's going to be on Elias's mind to try and pay him back in exactly the same way he was done in the last race, but he can't quite manage to make anything happen yet as Fred Peters in the orange number 57 car seems to have worked his way back up into 6th position after a disappointing start for the Portuguese rookie. Coming around turn 6 now though, Luca Allen, the blue number 3 car, leading the possession. Still fantastic drive from him. He was on top in free practice, then was a little bit further down the order than he wanted to be in qualifying, about 2/10 off the leader. Unfortunate for the Irishman, but in race 1 he got a fantastic start where Elias seemed to spin his wheels just a little bit, and at the back of the grid there you can notice that someone seemed to go a little bit wide. That may have been Fred Peters or Luke Thompson or Omar Asbat. As we come up turn 9 now, you can see Amir Harris managed to hold on to his 3rd position so far, but I'm sure Maurice Mshaf are going to be challenging for his Malaysian compatriot very soon, as Elias Panin all over the back of the blue number 3. Elias trying left, trying right, having a look up the inside at turn 12. It'd be fantastic to see an overtake here, but in the dry, these cars are just too quick to follow through turn 12. You're going about 180 kilometers an hour at this point, and you can see they're going to start braking just about now for turn 14. There you go, and you crest just into the corner, and you can see Amir Harris closing the gap as well. Luke Allen, of course, being forced to divide defensively now to hold off Elias Panin, but and Amir Harris, I'm sure, trying to take advantage of that situation. Let's have a look at the sector times. Elias faster in the first 2 sectors, as we've seen consistently, but only by about 800ths of a second, or even less than that in the second sector, 500ths of a second. So Luke Allen definitely on pace, slightly faster in the 3rd sector, if I'm not mistaken. As we know, Lucas seems to be faster in the second half of the track, I should say, and Elias faster in the first half. So as they cross the start-finish line, let's have a look at the lap times. 2:15.931 from Luca, 2:15.880 from Elias. So they're very closely matched indeed. 500ths of a second is the difference. As Amir Harris, what's he doing? At 2:16 dead, so he's about a 1/10 of a second further back than he needs to be, but he's maintaining his gap. He's only 5/10 of a second behind Elias Panin, and less than a second behind the man in front of, the man leading the race, we should say, Luca Allen. So fantastic drive from the young Malaysian, only his 2nd outing here at the Formula 4 Southeast Asia Championship. Coming up the straight now into turn 4, is Elias close enough to make anything happen? Doesn't seem to be, as Luca Allen fantastically goes faster in the 1st sector by 700ths of a second. So it's been switched up again, ladies and gentlemen. In the previous race we saw early on Elias Panin faster in the 1st sector and Luca faster in the final sector, and now it seems that Lucas managed to find a little bit of time in that 1st sector, going, as we said, 700ths of a second faster. As Luke Thompson now battling with Sneha Sharma coming through turn 5 and 6, managing to gain position. That would put him into P5, if I'm not mistaken, as the purple number 9 car unfortunately relegated to P6, but a good strong drive from Sneha. You can definitely see her improving performance, managing to hold out on the reverse grid lead far longer than she has before, and definitely giving Luke something to compete with. As we come down the straight now into turn 9, Fred Peters on screen at the moment in the red number 42 car of Luke Thompson, now just ahead of the purple number 9 of Sneha Sharma. Looks like something may have come a little bit loose on his car there, as Sneha seems to go a little bit squarely on the exit of turn 9. Down, up into turn 11 now, Luke about to crest the corner. And let's have a look at the timing screen. So Luca Allen once again faster in the 2nd sector, 29.567, just ahead of Elias Panin with a 29.632. Elias going fast, doing his personal best, but not quite fast enough. And it looks like somebody locked up at turn 14 just before we followed Fred Peters through that sector of the track. Back to the timing screens though, Maurice Mshaf, if I'm not mistaken, doing the fastest 3rd sector of the race so far. So Maurice Mshaf coming to life here in the almost reaching the 2nd half of the race, as Luke Allen takes us around turn 15. Let's have a quick replay. Here we go, Luke Thompson, the red number 42 car. Seems like his air filter came a little bit loose and came off the car there. Hopefully Marshall's able to recover that once everybody passed through. Coming up through turn 9, you can see Luke cresting there, seems to be continuing, no problem. Back to the front of the action though, now we have Luke Allen still leading the race ahead of Elias Panin, the red number 58 car, the blue number 19 of Amir Harris, battling with the pink number 13 of Maurice Mshaf, who gets a fantastic entry into turn 1. He's going to come alongside Amir Harris, maybe close enough to make a dive up the inside at turn 2, decides against it, cuts back, and he's going to get a much better exit coming out of this corner. It's going to give him the opportunity to gain the slipstream and really be right up next to his compatriot coming into turn 4, and hopefully they don't collide, as Maurice, I'm sure, will make a move coming around the outside perhaps, or even the inside. But Amir Harris, no stranger here to this track, and certainly not from Malaysia, and I'm sure he's got a lot to prove on his plate, as Maurice has already been here for a year. Well, I should say even longer than that. This is Maurice's 2nd year now. Of course, Maurice Mshaf managing to gain the rookie second, if I'm not mistaken, last year, and back this year to try and win the main thing. He's in 3rd position at the moment, and he's got a lot more work to do if he wants to get back up to the top of the podium, and he's going to start by getting this 3rd position away from Amir Harris. Maurice Mshaf, interesting enough, doing the fastest lap on track last time around at 2:14.964, so the young Malaysian rocket definitely improving this race. Perhaps he likes the early morning races a little bit better. As we can see, the blue number 3 car of Luke Allen there, still having been forced to fend off the Elias Sapanen just behind him. Elias going faster in the first sector this time around, but Luca faster in the second sector. So as you can see, it's a bit of a repeat from yesterday. Elias finding time in the first sector, and then Luca responding in the second sector, and Elias finds time in the next sector, and Luca responds in the next sector. The two drivers so equally matched that they can't find enough time to make something happen. The gap between their lap times at the moment, at least the last time around, was 500ths of a second. The difference between the two drivers on track is 4.63 tenths of a second. So Elias Sapanen almost close enough to make a move, but just not quite. Luke Allen driving flawlessly to keep the young Finn behind him after a disappointing event 8 here at Sepang for the Irishman, where the Finnish driver really dominated, winning 3 out of 4 races. As we come around turn 15 now, the blue number 3 car of Luke Allen cresting at the midpoint and hitting the gas just on the exit there, as you can see. The red number 58 car just behind him, of course, Elias Sapanen, the Finnish driver, and the Irish driver battling for the championship standings at the moment. Interestingly enough, Luke Allen sets the fastest lap on track, 2:14.726. That is 800ths of a second faster than Elias Sapanen. The two gentlemen, the only men in the 2:14s at the moment, as Moise Machafra seems to have made a move and got past Amir Harris. Now Fred Peters trying to do exactly the same thing. The Portuguese rookie driving fantastically to catch up to this grid because he had a disappointing start, unfortunately, but now he's back in there, and it looks like he's going to try and get 4th position and maybe even challenge Moise for 3rd. Fred doing a 2:15.439, so he's the faster of the 3 drivers at the moment on track. And let's have a look at the sector times. 2:29.143 for Luke Allen, and a 29.193 for Elias Sapanen, and a 29.385 for Moise Machafra, and a 29.309 for Amir Harris, and a 29.332 for Frederico Peters. So fantastically close racing there in the battle for 1st position, and then the battle for 3rd position as well between the Malaysians and the Portuguese, and of course the Irish and the Finnish at the front of the grid. As Moise Machafra here in the pink number 13 car does seem to be edging out a little bit of a gap between himself and Amir Harris. Of course, Amir being forced to ride defensively to keep the Portuguese orange number 57 just behind him, and he's managing to do that so far. But the Portuguese driver, I'm sure, is going to be trying everything he possibly can, left, right, up, down, any angle to get the advantage on the Malaysian. And you can see how close they are. At the beginning of the lap, the gap was 4/10ths of a second, but it's definitely less than that. At the moment, I would say about 2 or 3 tenths, at least on the braking, even less than that. As we come around turn 11, now you can see the blue number 19 of Amir Harris still managing to hold on position, as it looks like he's going to come down into 12. And there you go, beautiful little shot there of the blue and orange cars fighting for position. And we can see a bit of a lock-up there. That seems to come from Moise Machafra just off screen, so that's not good news for him. He may have been the cause of the lock-up on the previous lap as well that we didn't quite catch on camera, but it'll be interesting to find out what's happening there. Maybe he's suffering a bit of understeer or something like that. As it looks like Fred Peters coming alongside the blue number 19 of Amir Harris. Going to go around the outside at turn 15, locks up the wheels just a little bit on the braking, but seems to manage to get away with it. And on the exit, he's closed the door and he said thank you very much. He's walking away down the main straight as Luke Allen back to the front of the grid leads the pack still from the red number 58 cars. They cross the line. Elias Sapanen going faster. Actually, Luke Allen going faster at 2:14.795. Fantastic from him, but going faster by less than 100th of a second, so it's very, very close indeed. The gap now 5/10ths of a second between himself and Elias Sapanen. Further down the order, of course, we have Moise Machafra doing a 2:15.312, Fred doing a 2:15.383, and Amir doing a 2:16.454. So very close racing here indeed. As we come up into turn 4, now you can see Luke Allen is still at the front of the pack in the blue number 3 car. The sizzling Irishman already planning for next year. We were discussing everything with him earlier on, and he's got big plans for the future, and hopefully we'll see him competing somewhere fantastic next week as well. Looks like we're going to have a quick replay of the start of the race now, though. You can see on the left-hand side of your screen, the purple number 9 gets away well. Fred Peters seems to perhaps stall or not manage to engage gear properly. I'm not sure about that. But Moise Machafra, Luke Allen, and Elias Sapanen all side by side down the main straight, while Luke Thompson tries to block out the middle car. Moise Machafra is going to go all the way around the outside, and Sneha Sharma and Omar Aswa at the beginning of the grid. You can see what happens there as well as they go 3 wide further down the order, and unfortunately Moise is pushed out a little bit, loses a little bit of time, scrubs some momentum, and it looks like Elias Sapanen and Luke Allen just managed to get up into the front of the order much faster now. It looks like we're replaying some action a little bit later on now between, or this may be back to live now if I'm not mistaken. Luca Allen now, the blue number 3 car, still at the front of the pack, leading from the first lap or the second lap if I'm not mistaken, as we come down through turn 12 once again at the 15 corner, 5.543 long kilometer long circuit here at Sepang International Circuit, of course the Malaysian motorsport. As we come through turn 14 now, you can see Luca Allen definitely gaining a little bit of a gap between himself and Elias Sepang. It was 0.3 per second, now it's 0.5 per second. Luca finding time in the first and second sectors, but not much. Again, we're talking about a couple of hundreds of seconds. So we saw this in the other race as well. Luca Allen slower in the first half of the track and faster in the second half of the track in the first half of the race, and then things seem to reverse in the second half of the race. With 6 minutes left to go on the board, we're looking at about 3 or 4 laps. So Elias Sepang still has time to make things happen, but he may be deciding to savor his tyres for the next race and hope to get a better start and get away in front of the Irishman. That may be the way to go, because you can see how closely matched the two drivers are. As Louis Michaud now on screen taking corner 1. Mui's not the only Malaysian here this week. Of course, Amir Harris just behind him, battling with Frederico Peters. Fred doing a 2:15.353 last time around. That's just 0.05 of a second slower than the Louis Michaud, the man in front of him. Fred doing his personal best first and third sector, so a fantastic drive for him to get back up into 4th position. Hopefully he'll be able to catch up to the man in front of him, Louis Michaud in the pink number 13 car. With 4 laps to go, he may just be able to do it. The gap between the two drivers about 1 second, so there's plenty of time for Fred to make something happen, but he's going to have to edge out about 0.2 of a second every lap. The Portuguese rookie, I'm sure, able to do it though, as he's driven brilliantly all weekend, and you can see him coming through turn 6 now on screen, the orange number 57 car. You can see the gap between the pink number 13, the orange number 57 closing, and let's have a look at the sector times. Fred 0.2 of a second faster in the first sector, 1/10 of a second, or a little bit less than that, 0.05 of a tenth of a second faster in the second sector. So definitely he's got the pace, and Luca Allen once again sets purple in first and second sectors. The man lapping about 0.2 of a second faster than Elias Sepang at the moment seems to be finding it in those first 2 sectors. At least there's 1/10 there as we come through turn 10 now with Amir Harris in the blue number 19 car. Let's talk a little bit about Amir Harris, ladies and gentlemen. This is his second weekend here at the Sepang International Circuit, and unfortunately for him, we can see on screen he's got to report to the stewards after the race for a start procedure infringement. That's unfortunate news for the young Malaysian, but it's all part of the learning process here for these young athletes, and that's exactly the purpose of Formula 4. Far better to make a mistake here and learn what you're doing before you make your way up into Formula 1. And I'm sure some of these young drivers are on their way already. As we see now the battle between the pink number 13 and the orange number 57 car, that's Louis Michaud and Frederico Peters. You can see the gap definitely closing between the two drivers, and this is the battle for third, ladies and gentlemen. So Fred going faster in the first, second, and third sectors so far. You can see as we cross the start-finish line, in just a moment we'll have an update on the gap between the two drivers, but I estimate about 5, maybe 0.6 of a second as we cross the line. No, it's further than that. It's 0.9 of a second, but he has managed to edge out about 0.3 from the last lap, where he was 1.2 of a second behind. Oh, sorry, where he was 1.2 seconds behind, and if he continues at this pace by the end of the race, the last corner, he'll have an opportunity to overtake Louis Michaud. That is, if Louis Michaud can't respond in kind. As we come now with Luca Allen at the front of the grid in the blue number 3 car, you can see the battle here now between Omar Asbat and the purple number 9 of Sneha Sharma. It locks up really badly coming into turn 1. That's going to hurt her significantly. That's her right front tire. It looks like it's going to be flat spotted significantly. I'm not sure. She's going to have a difficult time the rest of the day after that, as you can see already the difference being made. Omar trying to come around the outside here, definitely getting an advantage now because of that flat spot. The car is going to be vibrating quite heavily. You can see he's shaking a little bit coming into turn 4. The red number 27 car all over the back of the purple number 9. Omar Aswad joining us for the first time this weekend, driving for Qatar. His first time in a Formula car, so fantastic performance for him so far. Lapping in the 2:18s after just a week in these cars is very impressive indeed. In kind, we can say the same thing about Amir Harris. Only a second time out in these cars. He's down in the 2:16s. Fantastic drive for him. He's only a little bit, he's down in 2:15s. He's only a little bit off of Louis Michaud, who, interestingly enough, is responding, but not enough. Fred Peters still 0.2 up in this first sector, but in the second sector, 0.2 down. So Fred, you got to find something in the last half of the track, my friend, if you want to get up into that third position. But don't give up just yet, because you've got another 2, maybe 3 laps to make something happen. and we all know you've got it in you to do exactly that. As you can see, the blue number 3 of Luke Allen now. The gap between himself and Elias Stepanen definitely widening. Perhaps the Finnish driver deciding to conserve his tyres at this point, as we spoke about earlier on. Hopefully nothing gone wrong for him. As we come around 10:15, looks like we're going to be on the last lap now. Let's have a look at the marshal post. I'm sure we'll be able to tell if something's there. There we go, indeed. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the last lap board in orange on the black background. That indicates they've got one more lap to go, obviously, and you can see Luke Allen definitely going to be happy about that. Elias Stepanen, I'm sure, going to make one last push, but a little bit too far back to make anything happen. Maurice Mustafa in the pink number 13 car, coming down into turn 1 just ahead of Frederico Peters. The gap now 7/10 of a second, so if Fred's going to make something happen, he's got to make it happen here. He found 2/10 in the first half of the track, but lost a little bit in the second half. He was up, but he's definitely knocking out that gap. You can see he's got the pace. He's lapping faster than the Malaysian with the 22:15 3:42 last time around. Obviously 2/10 of a second faster than the man behind and man in front of him, I should say. You can see the gap on screen as well. It's definitely diminishing. Hopefully he'll be able to make something happen, and he does exactly that in the first sector, edging out 2/10 of a second on the Malaysian rocket, setting his personal fastest first sector. Let's see what happens when we cut into the second sector, and maybe we can focus in on the orange number 57 and the red, the pink number 13 car. The battle for third between Malaysia and Portugal. But at the moment, we're at the front of the grid with Luke Allen. Got to pay some love to the man who's led the race from the start. Of course, just behind him, Elias Stepanen, the red number 58. This is not where Elias wants to be. He had a fantastic outing last time here at the Sepang International Circuit, where he won 3 out of 4 races, and that really put him up there in the championship standings. And of course, Luke Allen, his main competition. So Elias can't afford to have this blue car where it is at the moment. But I'm sure the young Finn already aware of that and planning a strategy to reverse things in the next race. Luke Allen now leads us down through turn 12, around turn 13. And down into the penultimate corner of the lap, the penultimate corner of the race. And, well, I don't want to give him the commentator's curse, but at this point, who could stop Luke Allen to strip flawlessly? And we have to congratulate him for it. If you look further down the grid, you may be able to see the pink and orange cars of Maurice Mustafa and Frederico Peters. If we can focus in on the pink and orange cars of Frederico Peters and Maurice Mustafa, we can see the battle for third position and find out what's going to happen there. Fred 2/10 up in the first sector and 1/10 up in the third sector, so he's within striking distance. If we can get within 4/10 of a second, we know what's exactly going to happen. Perhaps we can cut. You can see how close they are indeed as they come across the start-finish line. Frederico Peters is just a little bit too far back to make anything happen, but can he get the set stream? No, he can't, unfortunately, for Portugal. It's going to be Malaysia in third position and Portugal in fourth. Frederico Peters driving fantastically, though, of course, earning himself the second-place rookie just ahead of Amir Harris.
Obviously another good race, finishing P1. Starting from the back, I knew it was going to be a bit of fun at the start, and kind of followed Elias through the pack at the start, and then the top 3 tangled a small bit, so made up another 2 places from that, and then managed to get Sneha then on the last corner. So yeah, then from P1, had Elias right on my tail, and then I think he made a tactical move at the end to save his tyres, but yeah, so that meant me taking the win.
Quite good start. I managed to get up to P3. Then 2 drivers in front of me collided, and it helped me down a tiny bit. But then I just had some understeer, so it was really hard to follow. And in the end, I just decided to back off.
The start wasn't really too good. I made a fatal mistake, which cost me quite a bit of time. So when I reached the first corner, I was last and like quite a big gap to the guys in front of me. But in the first lap, I managed to get back 1 position, and each lap I was just getting more and more until by the end of the race, like you said, I was quite close to Maurice, and I was hoping that I could maybe try and go for an overtake, but he managed to keep a gap, so never really got a chance.
Yeah, the race, the start was good for me. I got into third, and then after that, I got into second after the first corner, and then I tried to go for a move for the lead with Sneha, but then we touched third by the end of the first lap, and then tried to keep up with the leaders. But then I had a good fight with Maurice for third and dropped down to third.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm happy about it. I kept the lead till the last corner of first lap. Then I had a lot of pressure from the back. I ended up locking up a little, lost 3 positions. managed to keep up with the guy ahead. We had a bit of fighting on turn 5 and 6. Had a decent lap time and also had some wheel-to-wheel the last corner just before the flag. So it was quite satisfying, and I'm looking forward to the next race.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, really, we've reached the end of the race and indeed the end of the weekend. So for me, Aaron Thompson, thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you again next time.